right. Any runner is out when. This is Article 2, and we got to go to P. Okay. We'll do that after we're done. But anyway, a runner is out when he runs more than 3 feet away from a direct line between bases to avoid being tagged or to hinder a fielder while the runner is advancing or returning to a base. Okay. That's more commonly known as running out of the baseline. Notice there's a very important clause in that, right? Prepositional phrase.
Avoid being tagged.
To avoid being tagged. 3 feet, right? 3 feet away from a direct line. Now, when we say direct line between bases, it doesn't mean when you draw a line on the ground between the bases. Because that wouldn't make sense, because think about it. If I overrun first base, and now I turn to run the second base, and the guy's trying to tag me, and I run away from him, I'm more than 3 feet between the direct line between the bases, aren't I? So what that means is this. Draw a line from where the runner's standing to the base. He can go 3 feet that way or 3 feet this way. How do you know whether it's 3 feet? Well, 3 feet's about arm length, right? So what we do is we say this. If the fielder goes like this and he can't reach you, you're more than 3 feet. Step and a reach. Okay? So if I'm running, here's the weird thing. If I'm running and I'm in a rundown, I can end up all the way at the mound and not be out of the baseline. Because every time I turn around and run back toward the base, I have a new baseline. So if they're chasing me and I turn this way and run back to first, and then I turn this way and run back to second, then I turn this way and run back to first, and I turn this way and run back to second, and I can keep moving my way all the way down into here if I've not tried to avoid a tag, because when they throw, I turn around to run back. I'm not trying to avoid a tag. Avoid a tag means the guy's got the ball, and he's going to go like this, and I go like that. That's what avoiding a tag is. So if I start here and I see his hand right there, and I'm trying to avoid that hand, and the base is over there, and I go like this to go around, I haven't violated the rule. Because I get to go on a straight line from where I am to the base, and I get 3 feet either side of that line. Okay? And that only applies when? To avoid a tag. To avoid a tag. Okay? Or go run into a fielder. Right? You can't, so that happens in a rundown. If I'm in a rundown and I see the guy go like this and I run over here to get in the way of the ball, I've hindered the fielder, so we can have interference on that. Again, that means we're going to have to at some point talk about interference. Okay? All right. This isn't an infraction if a fielder attempting to field the ball is in the runner's proper path and if the runner runs behind the field to avoid interfering with him. Runners always have to avoid fielders who are attempting to field the ball, whether it's thrown, batted, whatever. So if a guy's running and the second baseman bends over to pick up the ball and he runs 5 feet behind him and then goes there, he's legal. He has to avoid the fielder. He can't say, I have to run on a straight line between these two bases and the shortstop's in my way, I'm going to run him over. Because the shortstop always has the right to field the ball. Fielders always have the right to field the ball. Runners cannot run into fielders who are attempting to field the ball, intentionally or otherwise. But that comes under interference obstruction, which is below
all the rest.
Safe out, right? It's below safe out. Okay? When a play is being made on a runner or batter runner, he establishes his baseline as directly between his position and the base toward which he is moving. So now we actually have rule book words that allow for what I just said. Okay? All right. That's A. Come on. Put too much movement in my slide. I got too fancy. A runner is out when? B. He does not legally slide and causes illegal contact or illegally alters the action of the fielder in the immediate act of making a play or on a forced play does not slide in a direct line between the bases. Oh boy. That means we gotta find out 2 more rules, which we'll circle around later, okay? Suffice it to say, there's legal slides and illegal slides. If you slide illegally, you're out. If you slide illegally, you're out. So that means we're going to have to know the difference between a legal slide and an illegal slide. Not tonight. Because that would, again, remember, we could chase our way, we could wind our way through the rule book in a lot of different ways. But there are legal slides and there are illegal slides.
Is the battle runner out as well?
It depends on what happened. Okay, it depends on what happened. There are also, on force plays, even more stringent rules about sliding, what a legal slide is. So there are more stringent rules on force plays about what a legal slide is than on other plays. So if I'm sliding into the plate and you're trying to tag me out, a different slide rule applies than if I'm sliding into second base on a force play. There's more rules for the force. Similarly, or make it simple, if I'm stealing second base and I'm sliding into second base, there's things I can do on that slide that I can't do on a force play. So there's a whole rule in the rule book called the force play slide rule. We'll go to that later. Okay, so suffice it to say, if you don't legally slide, you're out. And under certain circumstances, other runners may be out as well. Okay, so that goes back to the rules different. In professional rules, there's no difference between a slide on a force play and any other slide. All the rules are identical on all plays. In college and high school baseball, and then most rule books, even Cal Ripken and blah blah blah, that all play pro rules, they have adopted one of these 2 slide rules. And we'll talk about that slide rule at length at some point. Okay, but tonight's not the night. Okay? A runner may slide in a direction away from the fielder, so this is part of what makes him legal. So you can always slide away from a fielder and not be legal, because what are they trying to do in high school baseball? They're trying to prevent kids from running into each other. They don't want people to run over each other. Okay, it's a safety rule. Okay? Runners are never required to slide, but if a runner elects to slide, it has to be legal, and that's where we can find that rule. Jumping, hurdling, leaping are all legal attempts to avoid a fielder as long as the fielder is lying on the ground. Diving over a fielder is illegal. So now there's a whole bunch of stuff we'll get back to, but you can't, if a fielder is lying prone on the ground, you can jump over him, you can hurdle, and you can leap over him. But you can never dive over him. If he's standing up, you can't jump over him, you can't hurdle him, or you can't leap over him. So you know that famous play you've seen on YouTube where the catcher's got the ball and the kid jumps over the catcher and lands on the plate in high school? Illegal. Because the catcher's not laying on the ground. Why? Do we really want one kid with his feet up in the foot and wearing metal cleats in the face of another kid? If the kid's laying on the ground, his face is where the other dude's feet belong, and we can't make that guy's feet float off the ground. So we're not going to hold him liable for that. Why don't we want them diving over fielders? Because their feet, right? Again, we don't want them kicking, because at some point they have to come down, so it's about safety. Okay, so this is about safety, so let's not worry about, we'll come back to that rule. Okay, penalty, if you slide illegally, the runner's out. The interference is, and anytime there's this kind of interference, illegal, ball's dead immediately. No runners can advance on the special play when it's a force out. The batter runner is also out, and anytime there's interference of this sort, all the other runners have to go back to their bases, where they started at the time of the pitch. Okay, or some other thing. And we'll come back to this. Let's not worry about this right now. Just suffice it to say, if you don't slide legally, you're out. Okay, and we'll come back to interference rules a little bit later, because that's interference obstruction. Because that could take us way off the beaten path. The guy's out if he does not legally attempt to avoid a fielder in the immediate act of making a play, which we talked about. You can't run over fielders if they're in the immediate act. So that means we're going to have to understand what an immediate act of making a play is. So if a second baseman is just kind of standing like this in the middle of or walks in front of the guy, and you make contact with him, and he has no chance to field the ball, who's liable? So we have to understand that. We have another rule for that called obstruction. If he does, the runner's out, the ball remains alive unless interference is called. So now we have a weird one here where if you bump into a fielder who's trying to field the ball and you didn't call interference, that guy's out, but we're going to leave the ball alive and in play. And the reason we're going to do that is kind of what high school doesn't want to do is it doesn't want to prevent the defense the opportunity to make more outs. So if I run over a guy or bump into a guy who's fielding a ball and I'm out and he has a chance to throw another guy out, I'm going to give him that chance to throw that other guy out. Or tag that other guy out. Runner's out if he dives over a fielder, which we already had. If he's out when the ball remains alive unless interference is out declared, so the ball's out. Initiates malicious contact, that's another whole rule. Malicious contact's completely illegal in high school baseball. And basically what malicious contact is an attempt to dislodge the baseball from the player. It's making contact with no intent of getting to the base. Okay? With no intent of getting to the base. In other words, the intent of, you could argue anytime I run over the catcher I want to get to the base. No, I don't. If I run over the catcher, what I want to do, I want him to drop the ball. Right? We know we always intend to get the bases, but what we're trying to do is prevent that famous Ray Fosse. We're trying to prevent, for the younger kids here, we're trying to prevent Buster Posey. Right? We don't want Buster Posey to get wrecked.
Oh, she knows who Fosse is.
What's that?
She knows who Fosse is, Pete Rose.
Yeah, but you know, frauds, these younger whippersnappers don't know.
Oh, I know.
All right, so Fosse and Rose, right? Malicious contact always supersedes, and we're going to come back to this. Malicious contact is the uppity most toppest rule. If somebody makes malicious contact, everything else is off. It doesn't matter what happened. So if the second baseman's kind of not paying attention and he's in the way of the runner, and the runner runs by and whacks him, well then it doesn't matter that the second baseman was in the way of the runner. You can't whack people in the head because they were in your way. Okay, we're not going to allow that. Okay. So it supersedes, we'll talk about that. Malicious contact, by the way, guys are going to be they're done for the day, they go away, they can't play anymore, etc., etc. We'll talk about that. Okay, a runner is out if a runner or a retired runner fails to execute a legal slide. We talked about that, or does not attempt to form. They keep repeating this, right, in different ways. We get in the point, if you don't slide legally or you get out of the way of a guy making the field, you're out. Okay, you can't do that. Whew. G gets its own page. Intentionally interferes with a throw or thrown ball. Okay, so if you intentionally interfere with a throw or thrown ball, you're out. So if you reach up and grab the ball, or you see the ball running and you run into it. Right? Remember the Reggie Jackson play in the World Series?
Mm-hmm.
That was not interference. And all the people that say it was don't understand the rule, but anyway, that's a different, you can't intentionally interfere. Or he hinders a fielder in his initial attempt to field a batted ball. We talked about that. You can't run over, you can't hinder a fielder. So you can't stop on a ground ball, stand in front of him, go, and then let the ball go through because you're hindering the fielder, right? You're not supposed to do that. Okay? You can't go by a fielder and go, miss it, right? That would be hindering the fielder. A fielder is not protected except from intentional contact if he misplays the ball and has to move from his original location. So now they're mixing a couple rules. Let's suppose I'm the second baseman, ball's coming to me, you avoid me, you go behind me. You're the runner. You go behind me and I go, oh, and the ball dribbles around behind me. If I have to run and chase it, and I get run into by you, you haven't violated the rule. Okay?
Tony, on talking about that, if you're a runner, and you start probably seeing this and probably had to make this call, you're a runner, the fielder's the second baseman with the leave at the second base is catching the ball, you slow down, right at the ball, jump the ball, is that considered?
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
So even though you're intentionally trying to
that's not one, because look, there's plausible deniability. I was trying not to be hit by the batted ball.
Okay.
There's plausible deniability. Okay?
We've seen that.
Oh yeah, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
I was trying to, you can't stand and go, wait for it to go through the wickets.
Yeah, that's what
Right,
I'm
but if you're running and you go, whoa, and jump over it, I don't know why you were so slow.
Okay.
Right, right, I don't know. Okay. A fielder is not protected except from if he misplaced the ball and has to move from his original location or is prevented by an illegal act by anyone connected with the team or by a batter runner or return of the base, and for a runner being hit by a batted ball. If in the judgment of the umpire, a runner, including the batter runner, interferes in any way and prevents a double play anywhere, 2 outs. So if I was doing something to try to prevent a double play, we're getting a double play. If a retired runner interferes, so remember we had retired runner, so we could have a guy running the bases that was retired, and in the judgment of the umpire, another runner could have been put out, the umpire shall declare that runner out. So if I'm the retired runner and I crash into somebody, or bump into somebody, or hinder a player from getting another guy out, we're going to call that other guy out. But what we're going to see is, just because the retired runner runs the bases, doesn't mean he was hindering. Okay, doesn't mean he was hindering. If the umpire's uncertain, call the guy closest to home out. If you don't know who he could have got out, call the guy closest to home out. So we're going to have to come back to this one too. If I'm the second baseman and I'm fielding the ball, boom, and it gets away from me, how far can I go and still be in the initial phase of fielding the ball? One of our favorite phrases in umpiring and a lot of these things is step and a reach. So if I boot the ball and it goes this way and I step over here and pick it up and you crash into me, I'm close enough to where I was initially fielding it to be protected from you crashing into me. If I field the ball and I got to go 1, 2, 3 and bend over to pick it up and you collide with me on that, then it's probably my fault, not your fault. Okay? So there's a lot of interpretations going on here.
So the runner crashes into the second baseman. It's a step and a reach. The second baseman's legal. The runner's out.
Runner's out, and then we're going to put...
Are we dead?
Dead, yeah, dead, because that's interference, and the ball will be dead, and then we're going to put runners back, and if we thought we could have got a double play, now it's not likely. You're not going to get a double play when the dude botches the ball.
Right.
That wouldn't be fair. Okay. But also what we're preventing is, suppose a fielder, you get a smart fielder, sees a runner coming, and he knows he can't get somebody out, and he kind of scoots the ball away and then runs over and runs into the runner to prevent him from going to the next base. Then now we have obstruction. So what we want to do is there's a balance between runners not crashing into fielders and fielders not crashing into runners. Because we're going to see later when we do obstruction, it's illegal for fielders to get in the way of runners. Fielders can't get in the way of runners either.
If they're not fielding the ball.
Right, but they can't get in the way of runners. So we have both and we have to balance it. We'll come back to that. When we talk about interference obstruction, we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. If two fielders are trying to field a batted ball, then the umpire has to decide which one. So let's say you got a first baseman and a pitcher running over to field a ground ball near the line, and the first baseman has a chance to field it, and the pitcher gets in the way of the runner, and the runner crashes into the pitcher. It's not the runner's fault. It's now the pitcher's fault. But if the runner crashes into the first baseman while he was fielding the ball, then it's the runner's fault. So we have to decide which guy could legally field the ball. And that doesn't happen very often, but you have to be aware of that, okay?
Say the pitcher runs into the batter runner.
There's a really cool video of this online too.
And the first baseman's the one that's fielding it. But the pitcher hits him.
Then the pitcher's guilty.
The pitcher's guilty, so is he awarded first base? Even though the guy probably
we'll talk about obstruction later, yes.
Okay,
that's obstruction, we'll talk about it. Those are the plays, that's the time you're going to see that. Two guys, or let's suppose a third baseman and a shortstop are both going for a ball and a runner's running from second to third.
Right.
You have to decide which fielder was really going to field the ball. Because you can't have a third baseman running into the runner saying, oh, I was going to get the ball when the shortstop's waiting for it like this. Okay, so you have to be aware of that too. When else is a runner out? He's touched by a live ball securely held by a fielder, or is touched by a fielder's glove or hand with the ball. Live ball is held therein while the runner is not touching his base. Okay, we saw that already. That was called a Tag out, right? That was called the tag out. If a batter runner safely touches first base and overslides it, overruns it, except on a base on balls, there's our answer again. Okay, he may immediately return to first base without liability of being tagged out, provided he did not attempt to run or feint to second base. Also, if any base becomes loose from its fastening, somebody asked me this the other day, when the runner contacts it, he cannot be tugged out because the base slides away from him. Can't be tagged out unless the base slides away from him. Good? He's not out if the ball is not securely held or if it's dropped or juggled after the runner is touched. We already talked about that one. Runner's out. Does not retouch his base before a fielder tags him out or holds the ball while touching such base after any situation. These situations we'll come back to. Umpire may also call him out at end of playing action upon proper successful appeal. Also, it is not necessary for runner to retouch his base after a foul tip. We know this one, fly ball's caught, and we'll come back to this because there's another rule we got to understand is retouch. Fly ball's caught, runner's got to retouch the base before they can advance, right? Or tag up before they advance. If they don't tag up, all we got to do is catch the ball and hold it on the base or throw out, which we talked about earlier. If he runs all the way home and he doesn't come and he's not coming back, or he runs all the way to third and he's not going back to second, then that turns into an appeal, which is a different animal. Okay, and we'll talk about appeals later, what constitutes an appeal. Fails to reach the next base after a fielder either tags a runner out or holds the ball while touching the base after a runner's been forced from the base he occupied because the batter runner became a runner with the ball in play when other runners were on first, blah, 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 blah. There are no accidental appeals on a force play. I already talked about that, so we already know what a force out is. The batter becomes a runner, and you have to leave the base. I don't have to touch you anymore. I can touch the base or you. Either one. Touch the base or you. In either case, that's a force out. Whether I touch you or the base, it's still a force out. That's important for runs scored. For runs scored, because we know no run can score, at least most of us do, we'll learn this again. No run can score when the force out is the third out, or an out, the third out is on a batter runner before he reaches first. Okay? No runner can be forced if the runner who is following him is put out. Right? So once a following runner is put out, a runner is out when he's contacted by a fair batted ball before it touches an infielder or after it passes any infielder except the pitcher and the umpire is convinced that another infielder has a play. So let's suppose you're running in front of that second baseman and the ball hits you. Then the runner's out. So if you get hit by a fair batted ball and a fielder has a chance to field the ball, you're out. In high school baseball, this is weird though, if a ball, before it touches an infielder or after it passes by any infielder, except the pitcher, so the pitcher does not count as an infielder for this. That wouldn't be fair to runners, right? Because say everybody's playing in or something like that, or if it goes by the pitcher and you kick it or run into it, then it, okay, and the umpire is convinced that another fielder has a play. So you could be convinced, say the first baseman was fielding, the first baseman and second baseman are kind of playing over like a shift. And the first baseman, the runner from first takes off running, the first baseman goes to field the ball and misses it, and it goes by him, and then it hits the runner. Well, if you believe that the second baseman could have fielded the ball, then the runner's out. And again, there's a lot, this is a certain kind of interference we'll come back to later, but there's a bunch of different theories about all this, all kind of crazy stuff about this. Generally speaking, if a runner gets hit by a batted ball, he's out. Generally speaking. Unless you see it, the first baseman reaches over, goes by him, and the guy gets hit directly behind the first baseman, guess what? The second baseman wasn't going to get to that ball. Apply common sense and fair play. We gave a guy an opportunity to catch the ball, another guy got hit by it. We'll talk more about that when we get to interference.
Got a runner on second, Tony, gets hit by a ball. Is that
right up the middle of the
Yeah.
infield, we're gonna call him out.
okay?
We're just
Even
gonna
though
call him.
fielder couldn't
But
get
think
it.
about this, the probability that a runner is standing on second base and gets hit by a ground ball is doggone near zero.
Right.
Because runners
agree with
lead
you.
off of second
Just
base.
going by the rule here.
Runners lead off of second base, okay?
Right.
If a runner is touching his base when he is hit by an infield fly, he is not out. Here's the interesting thing. If you're standing on second base, like you just asked me, you get hit by a batted ball, you're out. The base is not a safe haven. If you're the batter, if you're runner R1 and you get hit by a batted ball, even though you're standing on the base, you're out. If you're at third base and you get hit by a batted ball, you're out. The base is not a safe haven. Except on an infield fly. Except on an infield fly. On an infield fly, if you get hit, if you're standing on second base like this, and the ball comes down and bonks you on the top of the head, you're not out. But if it's a regular pop-up and you get bonked on top of the head, you're out. Okay?
Even standing on the base.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
not a safe haven. Because what we want then, and look, you're never going to see this in your entire life, but that's the rule.
Right.
Okay, I promise you, if you see it, just go, mark that off the list. Things that you're not supposed to see. If a runner is hit by an infield fly when he's not touching the base, he's out. So if I'm dancing around and get hit with it, then we're both out. Because the batter's already out on the infield fly, and then I'm out as well. All right, we're getting close, and it's getting late. L, attempts to advance to home base when the batter interferes with a play at home base with less than 2 outs. Okay, a runner can be out. I'm running home, say a squeeze, and I got a squeeze play, and the batter gets in the way and it bumps into the catcher or interferes with the catcher. Then I don't call the batter out, because normally when the batter interferes, I call him out. Again, we don't know interference yet, so notice we got to go through some more rules. If the batter interferes, normally I call the batter out. If there's a runner trying to score from third and there's less than 2 outs, I'm going to call the runner out. Because think about what we want. We don't want on a botched squeeze, say there's a squeeze and the guy bunts through it, for him to just bump into the catcher, knock him off, and then go, I get another chance. Right? I'll keep the guy at third and we'll bring in another batter. What we want them to do is if you bump into that dude, we're taking the guy off of third base. Understand that's the point of the play. So once you understand the point of it, it's easy to remember. Less than 2 outs, runner advancing from third, batter interferes. We're going to call the runner out, not the batter out. But say, catch, batter interferes with a runner going to second base on a steal, then we're going to call the batter out and put the runner back. So they're slightly different. And again, we're going to talk about that more when we talk about interference. If there are 2 outs, the batter's out. Okay, if there's 2 outs, the batter's out. So if he's trying to steal the plate and the batter bumps into him, then the batter's out. Again, why? Because say it's 2 outs and your really fast dude is at third, and they're trying, and your cleanup hitter's at the plate, and he bumps into the guy, to go, look, that guy's out anyway. He's dead out anyway. I might as well bump into him and I get to come up again. Right? Or I'm going to give it a shot, I get to come up again. No, if you do that with 2 outs, you don't get to come up again. Passes an unobstructed preceding runner before such a runner is out, including awarded bases. If you run past a runner, if you pass a runner, you're out. Now, this is really weird. Here's, say, this is the batter runner, and this is the runner from first. And there goes the runner from first, and he sees a fly ball. And the batter runner rounds first base, and he goes like this. And he goes, ooh, and he comes halfway, and the runner from first goes like that, and then goes like that. The batter has passed him even though it was this dude that went this way. You can't run, you can't be in front of. In other words, if a runner ends up in front of a runner who's in front of him, he's out. I've seen this on home runs in college games twice.
That's insane.
Ball hit to right field, deep right fielder. The runner from first is going like this, going like this. The batter runner knows the ball's out of the ballpark. He's running, right? He's running. Woohoo! He goes right past R1, and the outfielder comes back with the ball like this, and he go, oh, it's not in his glove. Because think about it, the runner doesn't want to run till he knows for sure that ball's, the batter runner, nothing bad can happen to him once he touches first. He whether he drops it or not, the runner from first is, uh-oh, if he drops that ball, if he catches that ball and I'm at second base, I'm out. I've seen it happen twice in college games. Passing the runner. And that's typically when you're going to get passing the runner.
D1
Plays
or
like that.
D3?
Was that?
Was it D1 or D3?
D1.
Wow.
Once at Liberty and once at Virginia Tech.
The one out, just the batter.
The batter's out, and it's really weird because now, depending on the number of outs, runs may or may not score.
Okay.
And everyone else can still.
Yeah, no, the ball remains alive and in play, and everybody else can keep running. I got a crazy play, if I can think about it sometime, my buddy Steve Corby had in pro ball where they actually had bases loaded, ball hit down in the corner, everybody running, one guy went back, another guy went like this, so the runner from second, rounded third, was going home, the runner from third was going back to third, and so that guy was out because he passed, this guy was out because he passed that runner, it was a forced play, so the forced play came off, they're trying to throw a ball in it, they ended up with 3 outs, and they got it all right and explained it, and they were heroes, and it was bizarre, I don't even understand it to this
So,
day.
bat runner hits the ball, home run, hits the ball over the fence. Runner on first is holding up, because he's not sure if it's going to be caught or not. The guy passes him, the batter's out, so the
Batter
home
runner's
run's
out.
done.
Well, no,
And
the
he
all,
goes back.
no. If it's less than 2 outs, the home run, all those other guys are awarded. Every runner's awarded 4 bases when the ball passes out
So
of
it's
that.
automatic.
They're all awarded 4 bases
Okay.
once the ball passes over. The batted ball leaves the yard fair.
How's it scored in the book for the batter?
Well, I don't care. That's rule
So-
10. I
so-
tore that out of my rule
That's
book a
rule
long
back.
time
The
ago.
That's
batter
what
runner's
that's what we got
out,
the note
but the
section.
runs on any runners on the base still score
Yes.
with less than 2 outs.
We have to look that up because it differs amongst rule books.
Okay.
So we're gonna hold on that, okay? We're gonna hold on that, okay? All right, we're almost done. So if you pass unobstructed, notice unobstructed means if the second baseman gets in the way of R1 and he knocks him down and you run by him, you're not guilty of passing, okay? A runner runs bases in reverse order to confuse opponents or to make a travesty of the game. It's not going to happen to you. This rule was written for this one. There was a dude in, I can't remember his name, I think it was Pittsburgh, stole second base, and they didn't make a play on him. And he was mad because he wanted them to make a play on him because there was a runner on third. So they're trying to do the first. So he stole first base on the next pitch. Then he went to steal second base again, and they didn't play on him again. So he stole first base again. And then he stole second again, and they said, look, that's just being stupid, right? You're making a travesty of the game here. Stop doing that. You're never going to see, you in your lifetime will never see that one. But understand that if a guy runs the bases in opposite order to make a travesty of the game, okay, you can't do that. And travesty doesn't mean he got confused and is running backwards when he didn't know the ball was caught or not caught. That's not travesty. He's trying to make everybody look silly. If he's doing that to make everybody look silly, put the kibosh on that. Okay? Positions himself behind the base to get a running start. So I can't say that's third base and I'm at third and I want a running start to go home. And I go, all right, he's almost going to catch it, and I start running and I touch third as he catches the ball and go. The guys tried that. These rules are there because people did this, okay? And so you can't do that. You can't start behind the base and get a flying start, okay? So if you do that, he's out. And then finally, come on, I thought we went to P on this one. P. After at least touching first base, leaves the baseline, obviously abandoning his effort to touch the next base. Again, you're not going to see this very often, but occasionally guys don't know. They're safe and they start going, ah man, and they go and they give up. They go, all right, I'm out, and they start. I've never seen it in a game. I've heard of it happening. People argue about it. If you go on internet chat boards, guys will argue about this for days on end about this rule. Abandoning means when you look at that guy, it's pretty obvious to everybody in the ballpark. He thinks he's out and he's headed back to the dugout.
He's dejected.
Okay. The problem is, when is he giving up his opportunity, right? There's this big gray area. Is it when he gets in the dugout? Is it when he gets in the grass? Is it when he gets 2 steps from the baseline? Is it when he gets, again, don't go picking boogers. You'll know it when you see it. If you need to call it, you'll call it. Okay? If you need to call it, you'll call it. So let's suppose the runner goes to first base and he thinks it's the 3rd out and he heads out to the dugout, heads to his dugout, or he heads out, he's the right fielder and he keeps going, gives his helmet to the first base coach and keeps going to right field. What's he told you? I've given up, I'm not running anymore. Okay? And that's called abandoning. Oh, I guess we went to beyond P. Is on or beyond a succeeding base when the ball is declared dead after having left the base too soon on a caught fly ball, or he failed to touch a preceding base, or he continues and touches a succeeding base after the ball has become dead, and the defense initiates a proper, successful appeal. Is on or beyond a succeeding base when the ball is declared dead after having left the base too soon on a caught fly ball. So here's what that means. I take off from first base on a hit and run. I touch second, I'm rounding second. And the ball's caught. Okay? The ball's caught, and I'm between second and third. Okay? I'm between second and third. And the ball becomes dead. I can't go all the way back and touch my base. You're never going to see this. But we'll talk more about this when it's important, okay? Or he failed to touch a preceding base. Preceding means in which direction? Going forward. So if I rounded second base and missed it, okay, and now they throw the ball and they try to get me out and the ball goes dead, I can't retouch that base because the ball's dead. This is one of the weird, every other rule book, we don't prevent that. In high school, you prevent it. In other rule books, it's different. And we'll talk some more about it as we go on. But this isn't going to happen all that often. Let's worry about the basics, and we'll get back to this kind of stuff a little bit later. It's late at night. And then here's the beauty is, we know a rule's over when it ends in period, right? Deliberately knocks the ball from the fielder's hand. Done. Only 6 minutes late. A lot of stuff going on, right? A lot of stuff going on. But that takes us through 7 laws of umpiring, priorities, ball strike, fair foul, catch no catch, out safe. That's going to cover 90% of what you're going to do. It's going to cover 90%. If you can do that stuff, 90% of what you're going to do, you'll be okay. Now we got to get into where to be to accept our responsibilities. Maybe we'll do, I don't know what we'll do next week. Maybe I got a little treat maybe. I got a 40-question true-false rules test maybe I'll give you real quick and see how you do on that. And then we'll have some fun with that. Maybe we'll do that next week just for bleeps and giggles. What do you think? And we don't have time. If we want, maybe we can go through some case plays. Or we could, what I might try to do is maybe find some quizzes from Referee Magazine. You guys, Referee Magazine's a great source. If you don't have Referee Magazine, try to get online, look for it. It's relatively cheap. Well, it depends on what you mean by relatively cheap. You can buy it with National Association of Sports Officials Insurance, and that gives you insurance against liability in games, and then game fee insurance. If you get hurt or something, you had a game scheduled, they'll pay you money for your games if you miss games. And I think the membership, which is tax deductible, is I think $97 a year or $87 a year, and you get the magazine, and then you get the insurance.
Does that include all sports?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for NASO it includes all sports. Cool. Okay. So it's an added layer of insurance up on top of the high school on the federation. I think if you read their insurance thing, it'll go on top. It goes on top of it. So that's worth having. There's a couple other things. Maybe we'll talk about some other resources that are available. Any questions? I know 2 hours is our limit.
Is it Thursday next week, you said?
Let's do Thursday next week. Does that work okay? Thursday work all right?
As opposed to Tuesday?
Yeah, Thursday. I think we'll go with Thursdays because it frees up basketball guys a little bit, and maybe we'll get some more people to come in. And I'm gonna try to entice,
You can call it out, me,
the rest of the association in the next couple weeks. I'm gonna send out an email, say, hey, we're looking to make everybody better. If you wanna come to these meetings, come on in and maybe we get some more people, some more goofy stuff going on. And like I said, if you wanna come out tomorrow night or next Wednesday to score, if you wanna come out, you're welcome to. I can't guarantee you that we'll let you see a pitch. I can't guarantee, it depends, cause I know tomorrow night I have 2-hour-long sessions, 6 guys in each session. So that means I got 10 minutes for each guy, and guys are working on things. So if you wanna come out and see what it looks like, meet some of the older guys, some of the more experienced guys, some of our better guys. I mean, the guys that are in the cage tomorrow, for the most part, are guys that take this stuff pretty seriously and are trying to get better in advance. So you can kind of see what they put themselves through all the time.
Are they local guys? Most of them local?
Yeah, I could probably tell you who they all are if you wanted to know. I could look it up. I know Mike Gillespie's one of them. I know Sam Rock is one of them. I know Sam Rock
I
will
work
be
with
there.
Sam.
Mike Gillespie, Jerry Burrish. Now my memory just went to crap. Mike Mackey might be there tomorrow
Mike,
night.
I played 30-0 with Mike.
Mike, we might turn Mike into